Welcome to Nite Callers Archives. Before Nite Callers became a vidcast on YouTube and Facebook, it was a live call-in show on Blog Talk Radio. We did things a little differently back then. It was a different time in the Bigfoot world. There were only a few podcasts, and Bigfoot was still taboo to talk about. We didn't have the TV shows, hundreds of Bigfoot groups and conferences, or funny memes that we have now. They were different times, folks. We've had many amazing hosts and knowledgeable guests over the years that helped get the Bigfoot community to where it is now. We hope you enjoy these older shows, as they are a phenomenal source of information and good times. If you hear a guest or host that you would love to see back on the current Nite Callers, please drop a comment. Enjoy the show.
Blog Talk Radio.
My name is Laurie Phillips, and we're very happy to see everyone here this beautiful Sunday evening. I would like everyone to greet our new host, who is graciously and without argument.
Quiet, Jacob, we're live.
Yeah, to help continue Nite Callers, even amidst the catastrophic events of the last 2 weeks. I would like to say now that I'm sorry that any of you or anyone listening was involved in a matter that should have been handled privately and maturely, and I never wanted to involve any of you. So we are moving on at the request of our loyal audience, and I would now like to introduce our new host, who is not only a loyal friend, but an awesome host. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tennessee Cherokee. Take it away, Tennessee.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. We're going to start this show with just a little short statement. The events that began on the 22nd of February are really history and done and over. We're not going to waste our precious time and energy going there and discussing this stuff any further. Our listeners are the reason for this show and will always be our primary concern. Nite Callers has been restructured for the sole benefit of our listening audience. We really like to include all of our listeners' comments and feedback into all of our future shows. Immediately, you should notice a more varied approach to Bigfoot research and study. Our plans include a wide variety of guests so that our audience can make a more educated and informed decision regarding these enigmatic reclusive primates. We ask that all of our listeners please take a few moments to express your feelings and concerns via the show's comment section. We'll no longer have a roll call because we have noticed that we've lost many listeners at this point in the show. Many want anonymity, and we all respect that. Please hold all phone calls till the last hour of each show, and submit all questions, please, in capital letters. We trust that you will tell all of your friends and acquaintances to come by and give us a listen. Our mission will always be to inform and entertain you. And that's how I wanted to start this show off. I really do appreciate everyone's patience as we took a sort of a week off here and restructured everything, got this show going again.
Tennessee, I am very glad that you decided to come on and co-host, because I think that the audience is just going to love you. You know, he has a real special, he's a very special person. He really is.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored to be here, and I just wanted to help, and I just want to do all I can to help further our research on Bigfoot.
Yeah, and you know something else, too, that him and I have discussed, that we don't know everything, and we really look forward to our guests to teach us. You know, we're learning just like everybody else, you know, so we are going to really try to let our guests give us all they got while they're here, and it's really not about us, because we're just trying to learn just like everyone else. So I hope everyone enjoys the show, and we'll try to make it run as smoothly as possible. And I'm just glad Tennessee's here. I wouldn't know what to do without him. Couldn't do it without him.
Thank you very much. We're going to work very hard at this and give our audience something that that maybe they can't get anywhere else. And it's going to be, like Laurie said, it's going to be a learning process along the way for all of us. The day that we get too old to learn, we might as well hang our hats up.
Exactly.
So, Laurie, you want to take it from here?
Yeah. On tonight's show, we're very excited to have Chris Noel of Impossible Visits. I know that probably most of you have heard of him, but I'll tell you more about Chris in a minute. First, I want to bring on two very good friends and supporting guests, and they were requested by our guest, our honored guest, Chris Noel. Everyone, Nite Callers brings back two of their favorites, and this is Pat Rance and Old Crow, and they agreed to come on the show. Pat and Old Crow, how are you tonight?
Well, I'm doing fine.
Hey, Old Crow.
Hello.
Hey, Laurie. Hey, Bryan.
Hey, how you doing, Pat? Hello, Miss Crow.
Hello.
I think I'm here, too. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
This is
Yes,
Christopher
we can hear
Noel.
you good.
Glad to be here.
Good. Hey, Chris, I was going to have Pat tell us a little bit about you.
Sure, go ahead. I'll just
kind of
pipe
give
down.
you some kudos before you step up. How about that?
I'd be glad to hear them.
Okay. Pat, why don't you tell us a little about Chris?
Okay. Well, he's paid me a lot of money to say nice things about him. I first met Chris, I guess it's been 3 long years ago now. I hosted when I was part of the BFRO back in 2006, I hosted the Florida expedition in Ocala National Forest, and it was actually based at my cabin, my weekend house up there. And it was the night before the official start of the expedition. There was already a couple folks there, and I think there was 3 or 4 of us. And around about dark time, we jumped in my truck, 4 of us, drove into town to get dinner. And we went to a little restaurant called Old Crow Restaurant.
Oh!
I thought it would be fun. I was by there today. I drove past and I pulled in and took a picture of the sign out front, and I'm going to email it to you, Old Crow. We went and had barbecue, and then we, was kind of getting to know each other, and we went back to the cab, and it was well after dark, and there was a minivan out in the driveway. And none of us really knew whose van it was. As we got closer and got out of my vehicle, we saw that there was somebody asleep in the back of the van. And it turned out to be Chris, and he wasn't absolutely sure he was at the right place or not, but he did find his way. And he got out of the van and came in the house. We all started getting to know each other. And so I spent quite a bit of time with him on that outing, and then the next year getting to know him even better over the phone and through emails. And the next year in 2007, I helped organize the expedition that was in the Green Swamp. And Chris was able to make it. I went into the Orlando International Airport and picked him up. He just came with clothes, basically, and I set him up in my tent with a sleeping bag and cot and stuff, kind of bunked with me for part of that. And we've been real good friends.
Don't forget, I gave you some genuine Vermont maple syrup to give to the...
Oh, that's right. He brought me 2 cans of genuine maple syrup, and man, was that really good.
Oh, that's so good.
I only use it on special occasions. Kind of like fine wine, you want to keep it for special occasions.
That's what I was hoping.
Well, it definitely did. And we continue to stay in touch either by emails or phone calls. He had previously done a documentary project called Knocking Back. It's really never been released or purchased. But I'm hoping he'll change his mind because I have it here and I've watched it numerous times, and it's actually very, very good for his first attempt on a documentary. And I hope Chris will put that out there for purchase. Then he was talking about a new project he wanted to do on habituators and the whole habituation angle in the Bigfoot world.
He was talking to the right man, wasn't he?
Well, I don't know about that. But
I sure was. Pat put me in touch with all of you folks.
Wow.
I happen to know a couple of people, so all I did was kind of make the introductions and point them in the right direction. All the hard work and everything was purely Chris's work. and, of course, the 5 different families that he's able to make contact with and visit with and get to know. And he's proved himself to be very not only resourceful but trustworthy. He won't reveal names or locations or anything like that. He's very, very careful about the way he documented all this. And let me tell you, some of the clearest images that I have ever seen of a Bigfoot.
Me too.
Came from a place in North Carolina, and there was some controversy associated with the site there, but nevertheless, I was emailed those pictures well over a year ago, and
because that's in the know.
Well, I'm just trying to verify that they are genuine, because I was before they were, I received those pictures maybe a week after they were taken. They were real fresh at the time, and Chris was privileged enough to be shared, for them to be shared with him, and he's got them on his DVD, and they look even better on the TV than they do on the computer. They're just phenomenal. And it shows you how well that they can adapt to the terrain and stay concealed, and yet when you know where to look and the proper techniques are used, you can see it clean as day. You can see the fingernails. You see the entire face. And he's just sitting back in there watching the whole world go by, keeping an eye out. So if anyone, I highly recommend the book and the DVD to anyone that's interested in Bigfooting or the entire subject. I highly recommend purchasing the book and the DVD, but read the book first. And then a lot of the stuff in the DVD will make more sense once you know all the background between the different families and the whole approach to this situation.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Pat, because when Laurie gets through with hers, she's going to send it on to me, and I want to read the book first then, because the only thing that I've been able to see of Chris's work, I viewed on YouTube, and I watched all of the parts, the Vermont ravine footage.
Yeah,
it was really, really good footage.
I really like the jogger one.
Which one?
Of course, the one with the jogger.
One with the jogger.
I'm trying to remember.
Did you put that on the DVD? I haven't finished watching the whole thing. Was that on the DVD or not?
You got to jog my memory. I can't remember that.
I don't remember when apparently you were sleeping in the tent and you were recording audio.
Oh,
and
no.
Jogging
You know
by
what?
Your tent.
I started having less confidence in that because there are mice jumping around in that wood.
They sound like mice to me.
I found out later there were mice, so I couldn't be absolutely sure that was our friend or not. So I did not put that on the DVD.
That was the largest mice I have ever heard.
Well, it's a very
I think
sensitive
so too,
microphone.
Old Crow, because it surely didn't sound like mice to me. It sounded like something very much larger and bipedal.
Well, this gets off the topic because I decided not to put it on there because I wasn't 100%.
Okay. Why don't you tell us all about your book and DVD then and your experience?
Well, briefly, my history is that I'm a relative newcomer to this field in terms of serious research. I've just been lucky to get hooked up with experts. I mean, none of us are is an expert, except the Squatches themselves. They know They know 1,000 times more about our behavior than we know about them. But I'm still a beginner, and I just started going on BFRO expeditions in 2005, and I started hearing about the habituation sites, and I thought, well, this is obviously the best angle to take to find out more about the nature of this race of people, primates, forest people. And I thought, sure, somebody must be working on a book or a documentary about habituation sites. But the more I learned, the more I found out there wasn't such a source. And so I thought, since I'm a writer, maybe my fate is to take on this project myself. And so luckily I was able to habituate primates such as Old Crow and others down in the southeast and the south, and another researcher up in New York State, not too far from me. And through being myself and being honest with them, they came to trust me and to know that I would not reveal anything about their identities or their location. And
you didn't, and I want to say that you did a wonderful job of keeping their anonymity and still producing a great DVD documentary.
Well, thank you. Well, it had to be anonymous, didn't it? Because we don't want these sites to be overrun by crazies. That's not the purpose. The whole idea is to gather together enough genuine knowledge and respectful research about this race that when the dark day comes that a body is harvested, or some way this gets proven to the world, we'll be able to show the world a source of truth and the details and the texture of their behavior and their nature, so that people won't jump to the conclusion that this is some sort of a monster ape.
True.
So I think the more that we can assemble in terms of true accounts of interactions with Sasquatch, the better position we'll all be in to try to protect them when the next phase of our history with them on this planet is reached, and that could be any moment now. So I wanted to go ahead.
I was going to say, not to mention, it takes years and years and years to develop trust with the Sasquatch, and all it takes is one mistake to undo all of that trust for years. And
I think I made that mistake last summer when I was circled around by, I think it was by one, because he thumped on the ground and he broke sticks, and for 6 hours he circled and circled and circled, and I finally got so sort of worn down and anxious that I busted out a searchlight. He ran away, and he never came that close again after that.
Mhm.
So I have to.
I remember seeing that, Chris, on your Vermont ravine footage.
Yes.
Where you were discussing that.
So now I have to try to atone for my mistake.
Well, Chris, I can promise you that if you're patient and go back to your original style with no lights, don't temporary setback. It'll take a while to regain their trust, but you will succeed if you just go back to your original style and respectful. You'll eventually be approached again. You may not do it at first, but you will.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm going to do it.
I think so, because they know who you are, and it's not very far from where you live, I wouldn't think, and
no,
so
it's just a couple miles.
It's not the same one, maybe a different one.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to be even more passive. After that, I never even brought the lights back, the spotlight back, because that has no place in this research.
No, it doesn't.
No, it hurts their eyes so bad.
I was mostly worried about it if a bear came. I wanted something to be able to shine at that, but I'm gonna give up on that.
Big can of pepper spray for that, Chris.
That's what I need. As
long as you don't pant, nothing, completely safe. Nobody can touch you within that little vinyl tent.
Especially if your head is underneath the pillow. Well, so
in a seal meal package.
Right. So I just communicated with these habituator folks for about a year. Pat introduced me to various folks, and Old Crow, you and I must have exchanged a couple hundred emails, although we've never spoken to each other. And then I did the same with others, and some I had long talks with on the phone. And the man in New York State, I visited him a couple times. We went out together in the woods at night, and I just gradually assembled all this information to put in the book that I decided to call Impossible Visits. And I managed to get about 125 pages worth of just straight first-person testimonials from the habituators. And then the rest of the book...
What an adventure. That had just been an incredible adventure for you.
Oh, yeah, it was so much fun.
I
was that nobody had ever done it before, and that it was for me to experience the pleasure of trying to formulate and frame this reality for the public, for the general readers. and I hope people will enjoy it. And
oh yes, I know I did, and I encourage everyone to go to impossiblevisits.com, and you can order a book and two DVD sets there, and I encourage everyone to do it. Everyone that is interested in Bigfoot Sasquatch phenomenon, this is a book that you must have. You must have.
Well, thank you. And one more little thought is that as much as shedding light on this on the relationship that people are able to forge with this primate, I want it to make other. Hello.
I don't know what that was.
A British woman is talking to us. I hope that it will make other habituators who are still, under in concealment. I hope it will make them come forward. You can write me directly at impossiblevisits@aol.com if you want to talk to me about your situation. And now that the book is out and the DVD, others can see that I will be extremely discreet with their information, and so perhaps we can get more and more stories and prepare ourselves for the day when the body is found, and the world needs to know what this phenomenon is actually made up of.
Chris, I noticed I was looking on Amazon because I buy several books from them, and I was looking for your Impossible Visits there, and they're showing it as temporarily out of stock.
It's through a publisher that's not as easy to get books from as normal publishers. I wasn't able to interest the mainstream publishers in this because it's such a quirky topic. I'm hoping that if I can show that people are interested in this and that have bought the book, I can then get the book picked up by a mainstream publisher, and it'll be easier to get. It takes 2 to 4 weeks at Amazon, whereas if you order it on my website, I'll ship it out immediately. So that's the difference.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Because I ordered it and I had it in about, I think, 3 or 4 days.
Yeah,
that's quick.
Yeah, once I managed, I have a lot of copies now at my house here, and so I mail it directly to the people when they order it on my website. So it was just a matter of getting the inventory up, and now I have it. So you won't have to wait if you're interested in obtaining a copy.
Okay.
Well, I want to say that I only got halfway through the book. It's been a very busy week. But I did get to see both of the DVDs. And I'd have to say my favorite one is the second one, both of them. But the second one I really liked because of the really great photographs of Bigfoot in it, but also different places that the BFRO has gone. The way they do their research was real interesting to me. And it would approach the researcher side of me. It really did. And I loved it.
For those listening who may not know, the second disc is bonus features, and it contains about 20 minutes of clips from BFRO expeditions, and also what's called a Kansas gallery, where a researcher in Kansas who takes long distance photography of the tree line about 600 to 900 feet away, and then looks with a fine-tooth comb over the photos after that, and sometimes finds figures, and not just imaginary shadow figures, but I think in them. I put that to music and have that on the bonus features disc.
I like the classical music with it. It kind of sets the mood.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah.
Sure beat metal or anything along that nature, and it's relaxing. It really sets the mood to where you can study and watch.
Exactly, I agree too. I really like that approach to it too, and I was particularly interested in the formations. I think I sent you an email to that effect. Mm-hmm. I've always been interested in formations and found some really awesome formations, much like many of the ones that are portrayed in the DVDs. I have, several ideas and theories about what they're about, but just like everything else in this field, it's all just theory, conjecture, and they are valid evidence. I mean, it's not very many people will say formations are valid evidence, but I believe they are.
You could really divide the research community in between those who think they are valid and those who just feel that there's no way to separate random deadfall and windfall from a stick formation or a tree formation that's been fashioned by hands.
Yes.
Well, some of those that you had on there, Chris, were so intricate. Some of them looked like a spoke shaped.
Yeah, that one I found, I call it the pinwheel. That to me is
yes,
beyond the possibility of random occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Could you speak to our listening audience out there about some of the gifts that you've been left by these Bigfoot?
Well, I'll tell you, Old Crow has received a whole lot more than I, and others have too, but I can tell you 3 that I received, and it goes back to what we were talking about a couple minutes ago. But the night that I think that I was surveilled by this one circling around and around me between 10:30 and 4 a.m., and I finally shone the light. I thought I had ruined all the trust that I had built up, and I was really depressed about it. And then about 3 or 4 days later, I got 3 objects put down next to the driver's side of the passenger side of my car on 3 successive mornings, July 1st, July 2nd, and July 3rd of last summer. The first one was it looked like a big mushroom, but it turned out to be an eggplant, a partially rotted eggplant that had come from a neighbor's compost heap. But dogs don't pick up rotten vegetables and bring them.
And I've never seen a deer doing that either.
No. And so that was the first. That was the first one. The second morning, I got a skull, I think a deer skull, that had a little bit of clover or some sort of greenery tucked inside the brain cavity of it. And then the third morning, I received at the same exact spot, and it had not been there before, or I would have seen it, a section of a jaw bone with teeth in it. And I haven't yet identified what kind of jaw. I just figure it's a deer, although I haven't gone to the trouble of identifying it because I just took it as a gift, and I don't, for my own purposes, need to know what kind of jaw it is. And I didn't know how to interpret this, and I still don't. But I only hope that it means, no hard feelings that you shone a light on one of us. We know you were at the end of your rope because we've been kind of threatening for 6 hours, and here's a peace offering.
Well, Chris, can I ask you, were the gifts in almost identically the same place?
Oh yeah, each one was.
Now that wouldn't be a regular animal doing that.
I mean, sometimes dogs will bring things to the same place to chew on, but I'll tell you what, I forgot to mention, and thank you, Old Crow, for reminding me of this. The bones were completely dry, desiccated. No, they were old and utterly bone dry, so to speak. There was nothing to chew on, nothing to gnaw on, no marrow in them. They were just completely dry. So that's not the sort of thing a dog will take somewhere. And
no,
the interesting thing,
it's sort of like it appears like it's a trophy or something.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that the passenger side of my car is the side parked away from the big picture window of my upstairs, the room I spend most of my time in, and where I sleep in. And so that would be where one of our friends could crawl unseen from the woods and leave it, and then crawl back and not have to risk being observed. So that felt pretty good. And then another time, the only other, well, I don't want to just blab on and on.
We're very interested in your conversation.
Well, this is the sort of thing that you can start to question your own sanity, but that's the kind of business we're in, where we're on the edge between insanity and discovery, insight.
Amen.
But one time I found I had 2 friends visiting, and one of them had spent a lot of time in British Columbia, and I was, of course, talking to him about Sasquatch and wondering if he had any experiences like that, and he completely discounted it. And he had the typical, the typical stance of, I just can't imagine that a large primate could, hide from us,
attitude.
Yeah, and then the next morning he was walking on a path behind my house and came upon an entirely unmarred, smooth-skinned tomato 300 feet from the garden, my garden, where the tomatoes were growing. And if a deer had reached over the fence and taken the tomato, it wouldn't just gingerly held it in its mouth and transported it 300 feet away. And this thing was complete. It was just laid next to the path, as if in order to be discovered. And yeah, and the idea of a tomato had gained a certain kind of charge of meaning by then, because 3 weeks earlier, in the ravine where I spend the nights where I do my research and I spend the nights, I had left some tomatoes from my garden wedged in between two trees. And the next time I came, one of them had been transported 20 feet away up into another tree, in the crook of that tree, and it was all soft, as though it had been inside a mouth or had been handled in some way. But it was
that
still...
tree was too, wasn't it?
Is what?
That tree was significant too, wasn't it? The second tree.
Yes, because that's where I always would go pee.
Uh-huh.
So he knew. So whoever put it in that tree, unless it was a raccoon or a squirrel, and just random, if it was done with intelligence, they knew that I was going to have my head right next to the crook of that where the tomato was put. And indeed, that's what happened. I went to pee, and then I turned my head, boom, right in front of my eyes was that tomato.
Wow.
Well, that's because you had been watched for a long time. They knew all your habits.
Well, you know what's interesting? All through the summer of 2007, I didn't spend the night in the ravine. I just went there, and I would spend a couple hours each time just sitting in a chair, reading, and sometimes talking to the woods, sometimes knocking. And I went 20-some times that summer, and it was only the next summer when I started spending the night there. So I gave them plenty of chance. Partly I was scared to spend the night. So it wasn't just a brilliant strategy. But then finally the last summer, 2008, I got up the nerve to start sweeping over there, and they had plenty of chance to see me during the day, doing the same thing each time and not being threatening. So I think that helped to get the approach. And on the DVD, I was lucky enough to get good audio of the thumping of the ground that happened that same night when it circled around me.
And it sounded like ground pounding.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it was.
I've heard that here.
Yep. And I heard that in East Texas when I went to visit. The person in the book that's called Texas Number 2 is a woman who lives in East Texas, and we heard lots of thumping on the ground in the woods. And
another one of the Texas ladies had a clicking sound that she had recorded, and I've heard that too. It wasn't mixed with a growl like hers was.
You heard it last night.
Yes, in fact, I heard it last night outside. I stuck my head out the window because I was hearing something, and I heard a clicking.
Did it sound like possibly the teeth were clicking together?
I've never figured out how they make the noise, whether it's in their throat or with their teeth. I'm not sure. It's just kind of it sounds like the Predator. On the movie Predator, it makes that same kind of clicking sound. And when I first began to hear it, I would hear it when I'd step outside. You'd hear it click, do the clicking. And it was like letting all the other ones know someone's outside. Well, now they rarely ever do it. I think that I startled it when I poked my head up against the screen and was looking out. I was hearing something stepping around outside, and I think I startled it. It wasn't expecting me to do that. And but I just wanted to say I have heard that sound. In fact, I have it recorded.
Oh, so, good. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. Well, I'll send it to you. I sure will.
There, in Dr. Meldrum's book, Sasquatch Legend Meets Science, he talks about a lot of people who have reported that same click, and they often interpret it as teeth clacking.
It could be.
I know there was an audio clip that came out of Alabama last spring, and it's posted on the Alabama Bigfoot.com website. And you can hear what sounds like some kind of a foreign language type noises, but intermixed with that, there's the clicking sound with it also, right in the middle of it.
Good.
Wow.
Did it sound at all like the samurai chatter?
No. It more sounded like somebody grumbling, to themselves almost.
Well, I'm going to listen for that. I've never heard that in person.
Can send it to you.
Yeah.
Here.
Chris.
Yeah.
Of all your adventures, where would you say that? I know that you didn't actually get to visit Old Crow's house and everything, but of all the places that you went, where would you say that was the most exciting place that you've been?
Well,
and it's not necessarily relating to the book or anywhere, but one of the most exciting places you've ever been.
Well, it would be an open and shut case. I was talking to Pat a couple hours ago about this. It was when I went down to visit last November with Texas number 2. Generally speaking, in East Texas, and and we had a bonfire going, and her 20-year-old daughter, and her daughter's friend were visiting too, and so we were all just roasting marshmallows and hot dogs and goofing around, and the kids had a real raunchy sense of humor, so they were being foolish, and I was lucky enough to have a loaner thermal imager because I can't afford one, but I had been lent one. And every now and then I would go away from the firelight, and I would scan along the edge of the yard and the tree line. And, of course, I was looking for an upright figure leaning up against a tree, and I never saw one. But one time I saw a horizontal kind of bar of light down near the ground, and I didn't think anything of it because I wasn't expecting that. My brain wasn't geared for that. So I just kind of filmed it for a little while. It wasn't moving that I could tell. And so then I just gave up and went back for more marshmallows. Well, when I got back to Vermont, I watched the footage very carefully, and lo and behold, this bar of light was moving, and it was moving in a very particular way, but I couldn't interpret it. So I made a clip of it, and I sent it around to other habituators, and it was Old Crow herself who helped me, who gave me eyes to see that this thing, well, I thought maybe it was some sort of a sheep or a dog choking, because the end of it kind of made that kind of a sort of a jerky movement down and to the out and down. But then she said that it looks like not a head, but fingers splaying. And as soon as she said on her email, as soon as she said the word splay, I suddenly saw that indeed it is an arm, I think a left arm and a hand, slung up over a board in this big debris pile, and the Sasquatch that I believe was watching us cavort by the fire was hunkered down behind the debris pile and didn't know about the capacity of thermal, and I wasn't shining any light because, the thermal is completely passive technology.
Exactly.
So that's why it's so good and so expensive. And it didn't know that I was able to see its arm. And I have that clip up on YouTube. If you go to the channel on YouTube called Impossible Visits and look if you look under DVD Samples 1, 20 seconds in, you can see this arm. I'm calling it an arm. You can tell me, whoever goes there.
It's awesome. It's awesome, everybody. You need to go
it's
there.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever goes there and wants to weigh in with their interpretation of what this thing is, please write to me, and either through YouTube or at Impossible Visits at AOL, and we can talk about it. But to me, especially in context of the fact that this woman, as you'll read in the book, has had many, many close encounters on her property there, and has often seen in the moonlight. This night was dark except for the fire, but when the moon is out, she's seen them swaying, behind trees, right 50 feet from her front door, and this is perfectly in keeping with her experience that it would be there watching us at the campfire.
I don't know if you know this or not, Chris, but I spent the night out in her backyard.
Oh, she told me about that, yeah.
Yes, and when all the men was leave, and go like up front and into the house, well then they were throwing rocks.
Ah.
They weren't trying to hit us or anything. They were just letting us know they were there. And they were throwing rocks, and I just thought that was really neat. But then when the guys would come back, they would just do nothing.
I
but
love
then
that.
as soon as the guys would leave, they would start throwing rocks again.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
One time when this woman was sick, she was really sick, and she was sitting out on her front porch, and she had, now what was it? I think pine cones would roll. It was very dark out, no moon, or else it was cloudy or something, and she couldn't see, but pine cones would suddenly roll across the yard and come to rest right by the steps, her front steps. Just gently kind of giving her moral support, saying, "We're here, we know you're sick." You know, It was so amazing. Probably people out there think we're crazy, but maybe maybe the ones who tune in already know that.
And I even had my wonders, if she really did have anything. But then when that started happening, I knew, and also I was seeing eye shine across the road, seeing eye shine intermittently. But what I wanted to tell you was I was seeing eye shine low to the ground, several inches apart, and I knew it wasn't a cat or a raccoon or anything else. It was a bright white eye shine reflecting off our fire. And it was, they were down on their bellies. Wished I'd had the opportunity to talk to you before you went. I don't know if you went there before me or I went there before you, but...
This was last November, and I mean, I've heard this before. It's just that my stupid brain wasn't tuning into the fact that it could be down on the ground. But then on the other hand, it would have been I would have been sort of acting like a jerk to kind of just approach it with the thermal camera going. I would have done it, don't get me wrong. But, given that I didn't, it's kind of neighborly of me not to have done that.
I bet they appreciate that, but you probably wish at second sight knowing that, you probably wish you'd gone just a little closer.
I kind of was kicking myself now, yeah.
Yeah. How many times have we all done that, though?
Yeah. Well, Pat has many experiences, Mr. Rance, of being in the right place at the right time without the right equipment.
Or with the right equipment, pointing in the wrong direction or something else.
Right.
Dang.
You know what it's called? It's called the Bigfoot curse. That's what it's called.
Yeah. Let me tell you,
If it hasn't happened to you, then you haven't been out enough. That's all I can say.
Well, I guess I've been out too, but it sure happened to me. I don't know how many times of realizing that I could have had the image or the video of the century and just didn't have it in record mode or pointing in the wrong direction, or we had heavy storms rolling through and I didn't even set up my equipment.
Realize you didn't put fresh batteries in your equipment, or
you didn't press the right button.
Yes.
Or else the record button. Or else the fresh batteries suddenly are drained.
You know what, though? Next week could be the time, next weekend, or the weekend after, next month. That's what keeps me going. It's just fun to get out anyway, whether I have any experiences or not. It's just great to get out there overnight or a couple nights.
I wish I'd come across
I really love the experience more than anything. The experience of it all. Even if I don't get anything, I was there. I got to hear it, got to feel it, got to see something maybe.
No, I mean, I agree so much, and I wish I'd gotten into it earlier. I like many people, I was first fascinated, and my imagination was captured by the Patterson film when I was 10 or 12 or something, and ever since then, I kind of thought, I wish I could live in the Northwest and go pursue these things, and I didn't know that they were distributed throughout our continent, and it wasn't until I was 44 years old, 3.5 years ago, that I started, with any sort of purpose or regularity, researching this topic. So I kind of lost many decades there, but now I'm onto it, and I can spend the rest of my life carefully pursuing, trying to be their friend at the same time as learning about them. And it's a tightrope walk, because you don't want to overstep your bounds. But then again, you really want to get some nice thermal footage, because you're probably not going to get daylight footage. But the problem with thermal footage is we all know how it looks, and so the skeptics are going to be able to say it's computer generated or something.
Or that it's a person out there.
Yeah.
I can tell you this, with the thermal, you can see whether someone's wearing clothes or not. I mean, you can actually see the belt, you can see their hat, you can see if they're wearing glasses. I mean, you can definitely tell if it's a person. There's no doubt about it. It looks like a black and white movie, basically.
Of course, if it's a setup, then the person would just simply go naked. You know, if we were trying to perpetrate a hoax or something.
But then there's also, you just go back out there the next day and
do
another person shot with a person there with clothes on. It doesn't matter if it's day or night, but you'll see the size difference, you'll see the shape difference, you'll see the clothes versus the first image without clothing. You know, you can hold up a tape measure and actually get an estimate on height and width. And
that's right. So if it all
there's more than one way to skin a cat. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, you already figured this out, huh, Pat?
We're going to do it.
I'm just waiting for the right opportunity when everything clicks and everything comes together.
Either Pat or I is going to get the first thermal footage, and we're going to be happy. We'll share it.
I know, I'll be happy for y'all.
Chris, I think you really need to come down and spend a week at the cabin or so, and we'll do a joint effort down here in Ocala or Green Swamp or something.
Well, that would be an awful lot of fun. Part of me thinks I should just not spread myself too thin, and that nobody should. And everybody should just go to the same place night after night and do the exact same thing.
Well, that's true.
So that the clan who's around there will get to know you so well and be able to depend upon your consistency.
Exactly.
So,
that's what the habituators do. Yep.
I mean, it's a trade-off between the adventure of going to lots of different places and being with lots of great people and just being lonely. I always go by myself. I don't, because I think even two people to them constitutes a group and is more threatening because they have to worry about being triangulated, about being flanked. If it's just you and they know that, then they're 10 times safer. So that's kind of what my mindset right now is, just to go solo.
What do you think the time frame is to develop a relationship between these beings and humans? What do you think the time frame is, basically? I mean, you've talked to several habituators, and how long did it take them to develop that trust? Was it years or?
It can be years. I mean, the North Carolina situation happened within a few months. My situation, I call him Thumper, the one who thumped the ground. That was after just, one summer of going there in the daylight and then starting to sleep out there. And it was only my third or fourth time camping out in this ravine that I got approached. But then it also depends on what you mean by a relationship. Like, that was just probably an attempt to intimidate me by pounding on the ground.
Yeah.
In terms of a back and forth, gift-giving sort of sense of knowing each other, I don't know how long that would take.
I think you were being tested.
Me too.
And, it's establishing that trust, and, you might have had a little setback, but I think if you put yourself out there and allow them to give you a few more tests and you pass a few more, you'll kind of graduate to the next level eventually.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping, Pat. That's exactly it.
That's the way
I agree with Pat there. I believe they'll be forgiving enough to give you another shot at it.
Well, I'm gonna go as many times this next spring and summer as I can, and just see what happens. But there's a lot of people out there listening, I bet, who've been doing this for years and just have never, either through not being inclined to or just not knowing how to, have never compared notes with other people. And I would encourage them to go to the AlabamaBigfoot.com, or to get in touch with me, or what are some other good links to give people who may be wanting to get to connect with others who are going through this?
Well, I think those are two good possibilities, and eventually there's other places that if they seem trustworthy and that and it fit in the group, that they can make contact with a few other folks.
That's
we'll
right.
just leave it at that. There are places to go and to get to know other folks. You kind of got to earn a little trust and prove yourself until your kind of doors are open sometimes.
Yeah, and those of you out there listening who don't feel slighted by that, you understand that there has to be a level of trust built up, because if you've been interacting with this race, you probably have decided not to talk about it a lot with other people, because it's only certain, particular sorts of souls who can honestly and sincerely handle this and not either freak out or shut down due to skepticism or just having their mind blown by it all.
I agree with that, because it's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people just have there's actually a wide range of emotions that people go through when they first see one. But it depends on how much you know about them to begin with. And I think that's why it's real important that education about these creatures, it relieves fear. If you aren't ignorant about something and you know about something, it's just like bear attacks are terrifying. But if you get the right information on how to protect yourself from a bear attack, this is just an example. If you are less fearful because you have a plan and knowledge about the bear and their habitat and what not to do and this and that,
this education in our particular field will make you even less fearful, because bears will sometimes kill and eat you, but
yes,
that's
they
why
will.
they probably won't, because that's part of their secret to having evolved alongside of us for 150,000 years or whatever it is. They don't go about killing, but bears don't have to worry about that.
They've always been here. We just never really knew it, or very few people know it.
Yep. Always a small cross-section of human beings have known about it, and it's the same today.
Which is another interesting thing about your book, and I like the way you did it. Between each chapter, Chris has taken very old newspaper clippings, 150, 200 years old, where someone had a close encounter with a quote-unquote wild man, and there's actions and behavior descriptions and things like that. And it's really kind of neat the way he's pieced that in the whole the dots.
Yeah, I was really happy to come across those, and I owe it all to a guy named Scott McLean out in California. And you can get a copy of his complete collection of old newspaper articles at McLean.org. That's MCCLEAN.org.
Well, that shows that you're a very intelligent primate in order to put it all together the way you did.
Well, I may be a beginner, but I do have a skill in writing books, so I decided to bring that skill together with my interest and try to fill this niche so that it could be a component of the whole thing, the whole educational process.
Well, another thing a lot of people don't know about you, Chris, but I'm going to go ahead and say it, and you can hate me later if you like, but stand-up comedian. I've seen several of his video clips where he's done like a stand-up show at nightclubs, and let me tell you, he had me in stitches the entire time.
That's nice of you, but I try not to mix these two things because that makes it easier for the skeptics to dismiss the Bigfoot stuff as a joke. But thank you for the compliment.
Oh, we were hoping you'd be funny. so serious.
I have my moments.
Yeah, he does.
Let's see, what else can we think of to fill up this first hour with
Pretty
Old
quick.
Crow? I feel as though we haven't heard enough from Old Crows.
I feel that way too.
Yeah.
Well, I've had so much background noise here at my house. I was trying to be quiet.
Little crowd.
Well, you surely were.
Well, I have that 2.5-year-old running around here, and he's been pretty noisy so far.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question, O'Crow. I'm going to ask you, how long did you live where you lived before you realized that you had neighbors?
Just really kind of hard. We saw them kind of off and on for the first few years, and then it was about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I knew for sure they finally left footprints, and I'm sure it was an accident because I was putting in a flower bed where there hadn't been one before, and they walked through it. And I knew for sure they were busted then.
Old Crow?
Yes.
Would you be willing to talk about a few things? There's a couple of things, if you're comfortable to share with anybody that I know of that we've talked about, and you sent me pictures and stuff. Is it okay, or?
I'm
Depends on
sure.
what you're talking about.
Just depends on which pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about the little bridge that you got for Mother's Day.
Oh, with the little footprints on it?
Yeah.
Well, there were some larger footprints accompanying the smaller ones, but fortunately they went around the bridge. But I had oiled the bridge and warned everybody to stay off of it.
What kind of oil did you put down?
The wood treatment kind was a little tacky.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it spotted up and messed up. And I oiled it, and then sometime during the night, these little square barefooted prints walked across it, which I managed to get pictures of. You can actually see. And the boards, I went back out and measured at Pat's insistence. The boards are like 3 inches wide.
Yeah.
And the footprints, I don't remember. I think they were about 3 inches wide and about 6 inches long.
Yeah.
But they were
really
definitely rectangular.
Great pictures, too, because when you zoom in, if you have a good monitor and you zoomed in, you can actually see thermal ridges and things on it. Different features.
Wow.
But
I have a pretty good monitor, so I can see a lot of detail on things. But.
There was a set of 13-inch tracks that had accompanied them. But like I said, fortunately, they didn't walk across the bridge.
That was the mama and the little one.
That was what I was assuming.
She would have broken the bridge?
Probably.
Yeah.
The bridge is only weighted, it says 200 pounds maximum limit.
I didn't know your boogers could eat, but maybe they can.
Well, that's whenever we put it together from the box, I was very careful on how much will this hold? Because the last thing I need is 7 or 8 kids on there at once. But anyways, those were some really, I thought they came out really well. But I did notice. I think there was, 4 foot? The bridge itself is about 6 foot long. And I think there was 4 different prints on the in between the steps is almost 2 foot. A little more than an
feature. If you remember, there was another feature. There was a very large handprint that looks like someone had stuck their hand on it and then dragged the hand backwards back to its, to itself, and it kind of left drag marks. But it was a very large hand. I remember that on there too.
Yeah, I had forgot about that.
Almost like, and you paint a park bench and then you put a sign up, wet paint, and what happened? Everybody
Because Brian sits on it.
Everybody that comes by will to see if it's, and that's what came to my mind. As soon as I saw it, I said, yep, they were seeing if it was still wet.
Hey, Pat.
Old Crow, the bridge, does it have a little arch to it?
Yeah. It's just a little decorative bridge that goes across the little trickle channel from a French drain.
Yeah, I was just trying to picture that in my mind, what it might look like.
Hey, Pat, were you there the night that she got that eye shine video?
No, I wasn't.
Oh,
but you measured the height of that, didn't you?
Well, we kind of walked not all the way back there, but we kind of estimated from a safe distance because it's, there's part of the area that's theirs and part, you just don't go there. So you could stand there and you could make out the individual trees and see what the distance off the ground was. And
seemed to be thick, between 6 and 8 feet. You thought?
Yeah, we're thinking around 7-ish.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just for those listening, Old Crow got some beautiful footage of eye shine in the foliage, was it, at the edge of her yard, and that she gave me a very generous permission to use that in the DVD that is a companion to the book.
It's great for all of you that haven't seen it. It is awesome because I tell you what I really loved about it. When it turned its head, you could actually see the light emanating from the eye.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
I was very impressed with that. Very impressed.
Wow. And she also, Old Crow got some footage of a tiny, very dark-colored baby that she also is allowed to be used on the DVD, and y'all should definitely see that.
And we're going to get back to the show now. We're taking calls. Anybody wants to call in? We've got our man on the switchboard. Now let us know when we have a call.
We had a question earlier, Laurie. It was from MNBRT, and he had a question for Chris. He asks, how close have you been to a Bigfoot, Chris?
I would say that the two times that I've talked about already, the thumping on the ground and in conjunction with the stick breaks, and the time I talked about in East Texas, where we're each about 50 or 60 feet away.
Okay.
All right. And I say the stick breaks because if it were just thumping, I could explain it away as something without hands. But these were insistent and rapid stick snaps, not from the hoof of a deer, but they were sometimes like three or four sticks breaking within a second or two, like it was trying to spook me.
Well, it probably was testing you. That's what.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we have some phone calls, so we're going to go ahead and take the first phone call. Yes, 936 area code.
Hello.
Hello.
Tech 7mm here.
Hey, Texas 7mm. How you doing?
How you doing, Jason?
Oh, everybody's just dying to see me. You know how it is.
Yeah.
I know it.
Well, what's
Sure wish
going
we'd
on?
Oh, not much. Sure wish we'd have got Pat's thermal out when we were down here having the outing. We'd had some footage.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of hard to take expensive equipment out in the pouring rain, you know.
Ain't that the truth?
You know,
I got video of that one Laurie's foot that night.
That would have been fun.
Nice.
Hey, we were habituating them that night. They smelled all that good food, and they just wanted some of it. It's what it was.
I think you're right. You really put
feet.
your dad really put on a heck of a food show there. Let me tell you.
Oh,
yes, you put out enough. You put out enough food, they will come.
That right there is enough to get me to drive all the way back to Texas. That good food.
Oh yeah. Tell your dad thank you again for all the hard work.
Will do. And we can't wait to have another one down here.
You know,
well, we've been talking about that.
Yeah, we have been talking that up, you know, Tex. I was just waiting to hear from you. And when you gonna get it?
Well, we need to do it before it gets too hot. Them snakes are already starting to crawl.
Yeah, but they cook up good too.
Yep.
So you can have my helping of them all you want.
And lobster. A rattlesnake is poor man's lobster. It's good.
You can have my share.
You're talking like old Bear Grylls there, Pat.
Hey, if you've never had rattlesnake meat, you're missing out, buddy, because it is dang good.
I don't doubt it. That's one food that I've just never been offered.
Well, see, Bryan, here in Florida, we got so many critters, we got to eat all the reptiles. You know, turtles, snakes, alligators, it don't matter.
Y'all need to get to eating those pythons down there, those reticulated pythons, because they're getting in battles with alligators down there.
I know it.
Well, I'll tell you what. Pat's got a possum under his house, and he needs to know how to make some possum dumplings.
Well, I tell you what. We had a face-to-face encounter this afternoon. I was crawled up underneath the floor of the cabin, up underneath the house, running some pipe under there, and I started hearing I was right by this tunnel, and I started hearing growling and hissing coming out of there in the dark, and you never seen back up while they're belly crawling past before, let me tell you.
You had a Class B with a possum.
You forgot the old adage, never go underneath the house unarmed?
No, but I didn't figure I'd need it, you know. I just figured I'd just go under there and be nice, and he didn't want to be habituated, so.
Well, if it had been me, he wouldn't have wanted to been perforated either.
I looked down in that tunnel. It was kind of dark under there, and I seen a face peering back, and it looked just like George Jones.
I thought you was gonna say it looked like someone else we know that's bald and wears a cowboy hat most of the time.
It looked like George Jones peering back at me.
Well, y'all have a good show. I'm gonna listen to it and get off the cell phone.
All right, buddy. You calling, Jason?
Hey, we'll have to get together and have an outing down here in Texas, and this time we're gonna choose the place.
Well, that's good.
You know where I'm talking about, too.
Yes,
I do.
You do it. I'm ready.
All right. Y'all have a good one. Bye.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, we have another caller. What is that number?
Hey, Laurie, you got some questions in the chat room, too.
Okay, let's take the questions first, and then we'll take the next caller.
One is, have you had any aggressive encounters?
Who's that directed toward? Me?
Chris, yes.
No. Oh, well, the first night I slept in the ravine was on the safe side, I thought, close to my car, because I wasn't brave enough to go onto the far side of the ravine, and it was a perfectly still night, and about 120 feet away from me, a tree crashed to the ground about 10:30, and I didn't get too much sleep the rest of the night, but when I woke up, I went up and checked, and the tree had been pushed partway across the very same trail that I came in on, and there were, hundreds of trees around there, and it was just that one tree close to the trail, one of them, that came down across there, so I think that was an intimidation move. But that's the only time I really felt scared. The 6 hours of circling me and snapping twigs and thumping on the ground was more like a Chinese water torture than.
Well, Chris, just think of it in terms as another test,
Yep.
Reaction.
I do. Well, I didn't run for the car. I lay there like a stone.
Chris, Chris, I want a question and I want an honest answer. Okay.
All right.
Feel like a little girl.
What?
Did you squeal like a little girl when you heard that tree go down?
No, and I didn't squeal like a pig either.
You got a real pretty mouth.
Moving right on. Moving right along. No, it's purdy, not pretty.
Purdy.
We just lost all of our listeners, I want you to know.
Yeah, we lost them all right then. What about the second question, Tennessee?
Yes. The same listener, that this is MNBRT, he asks, have you ever had anything thrown at you like sticks or rocks?
Me? No, unfortunately not. I wish I had. I feel slighted, exactly. Everybody's worth his salt or her salt gets chucked something at them. I can't wait.
Something I'd like to bring up here, I noticed, and we have talked about this before, we've talked about, we hear all these wood knocks coming out of the forest, and it seems like we never actually get to see a tree that was struck. Chris has a picture on that Vermont ravine video that has the bark stripped off of this knocking tree, and it looks like exactly where the large stick that they used to strike the tree is the only places on that tree that the bark's off of.
You know, another interesting thing about that is the difference of the sound of hitting the bark dead on and hitting that bare spot dead on.
Yes.
I mean, he's on to something there. And
yeah, that bark definitely muffles the sound, and it does not carry near as far.
We all know what an enemy bark is for us because we try to find a good knocking tree. And if you happen to hit a barky tree, it stinks. But this one that was on the trail into the ravine there was some patches taken off down to the heartwood or whatever you call it, the solid wood under the bark at about 4.5 feet, and then there was another patch taken off at about 7 feet. And it was right across, exactly across from where the tree crashed down onto the trail.
Wow!
And you can see that in the DVD as Tennessee is alluding to.
A good analogy that I can think of the endemic species of trees around here would be like a shagbark hickory and a beech tree. You know, the shagbark, you can just peel bark off of it, and you know it makes good tinder to build a fire in the woods. It's usually very dry. But if they were to use that tree and strike it would muffle the sound so bad. But now you take a beech tree that really has no external bark to it, it's just a slick, very dense wood, would be the right opposite of that.
What I think the prime target for them is a dead tree, because that gets to be so hard that you can pound on it all day for a long time, and we can't see the result of it because it's just become sort of halfway between a tree and a rock.
Yeah.
Right.
And the reverb on your arms. Woo!
I know.
Yeah. Let's take this other caller, if y'all don't mind. You've been sitting on, or he or she, the 828 area code. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi folks. JB here.
Hello, JB.
Hello. How are you?
Okay, Laurie, TC, Ms. Crow, and Pat, and of course Chris. Really enjoying your show tonight.
Great.
Chris,
very much.
Chris, your book is fascinating. It's I read a little bit and ponder a little bit, but I'm really struck by, in some cases, how your subjects progress right through from initial recognition to fear, to curiosity, to familiarity, to almost friendship. It's amazing to me how this works. I'm not real comfortable talking about habituators because I got to wonder who's habituating who.
I know, exactly. That's the dirty little secret about that word.
I tend to use cohabitators. It's a shared territory, and I think it's very interesting simply because nobody intrudes on anybody else, really. And as such, I think that you're able to observe more natural behavior that way. But
it's true that the word habituation it's sort of a distortion because it implies a kind of a domestication or a taming, and that's never what takes place.
No,
right. I appreciate that observation, and thank you for reading the book.
Well, I'll tell you what, I hope that you can pursue this.
Well, there'll be a book too someday.
We're waiting for another one.
There'll be a book too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you folks are doing a great job, and I'm going to go back and enjoy the show. And thanks a lot.
Thank you, JB.
Thank you very much for calling, and thank you for listening.
Oh yeah.
We appreciate it.
Yes, we do very much. Area code 716. You're on the air.
Everyone, this is Jordan Warner from the chat room.
Hey, Jordan.
Hello. How are you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing great. Hey, Chris. This is Jordan. I'm from YouTube, GBKK. I don't know if you remember me. I correspond with you.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I made that cryptozoology series on YouTube called Cryptid Hunt, and I think you're an amazing researcher in Vermont, and I really like what you do, and I'm very fascinated with your videos on YouTube. And
we exchanged
unfortunately,
a couple of messages, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Unfortunately, I don't have a chance to get your book yet, but in the future I will. But now I understand that you have a 2-year-old daughter, because it's interesting that for Sasquatch reports that I've researched that a lot of the sightings occurs when there's children around, like they're laughing or giggling, perhaps displays their curiosity. And I was wondering if you ever take your daughter out in the field, if anything like that has ever happened.
Excellent.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I love that question.
It is. Tell them about your recording.
Well, I was going to actually. Yeah, no, I don't take her out into the middle of the woods with the bears and the wolves, because she's only 2. I got to wait till she's 4 before I do that. But what I do is play a CD almost every time I set up camp, because I'm trying. You know, is anyone familiar with Robert W. Morgan?
Yes. Yes.
He's a
very great man.
Yeah, he's a good one to give advice about how to be consistent with your behavior, and so kind of following from his Bigfoot field manual that he has. I do the same thing every time, and I play some clips of my daughter's voice, just kind of babbling and laughing, on a little CD player, just at dusk, so that when they hear that, they know it's me. They know it's not just some campers who are playing some, popular music or rock and roll or something. It's me, and I'm not. I hope they know I'm not trying to trick them into thinking that it's an actual girl. It's just kind of my signature. Is this sound of my daughter's voice? So that's what I do, because it's so true, and you can see that from the testimonials who have contributed to my book, is that so many times it's the children and the teenagers that the Sasquatch feels comfortable revealing themselves to or interacting with, and it makes sense. They're just less threatening. They're more accepting and open-hearted.
They're innocent, as Tennessee said earlier. They're innocent, and they mean nobody any harm when they're that young.
Exactly. So when she gets a little older, I certainly am going to use her as bait.
I was waiting.
Don't tell
for
her
that.
mother that, though. Yeah.
I've heard that to make excellent Bigfoot bait.
Mm-hmm.
That's our secret.
But it's just a one-shot deal. You better pick
That's
your
why
moment.
Elko has so many grandkids and offers to babysit all the time.
Yeah, Chris, it's interesting that you said that, because Daryl Collier from the Texas Bigfoot Research Center, he had a sighting back in 2004. Him and his wife were coming home from a baseball game, and they passed through this park that had children around, giggling and laughing, and him and his wife went into that area just to look around because there was a recent sighting, and lucky enough, he saw this 7 to 8 foot tall creature just jump across the road and running back into the bush, because he believes that it was probably just
watching the
like
kids.
you said, curiosity of the children when they're laughing.
Exactly. Well, Jordan, you're going to laugh when you see the book, because I took a photo of my daughter looking off into the woods to use on the front cover, because this is such a common feature of.
It's a great photo too. Excellent.
Thank you. I like that photo. I got lucky. She wasn't even looking at a Bigfoot. I said, "Put this ball under your arm and look over there."
Chris, I remember when she was born, and it looked
I know
like
you do. I know you do. Yeah.
Okay, I'll get the line out. And Chris, I have your email address. I hope it's the right one.
Let's keep in touch.
And I'll keep in touch with you, and hopefully we can discuss more into this.
Yeah, I'd love to. Definitely do. You're the next generation.
A lot of people say that.
Researchers. What are you, 16, 17?
I'm 15. I'm turning 16 May 10th.
Well, bless your heart. I hope you
Happy birthday early,
keep with
Jordan.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good night, guys, and awesome show.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan, for calling us.
Mm-hmm. Bye bye.
We'd love to have you on the show sometime.
Oh, cool.
Just want to remind everybody that Chris's email address is impossiblevisits@aol.com if you want to contact him, have any questions, or maybe you want to buy one of his books and CDs.
Well, I'm online all the time, and it wouldn't just be to buy, but I'll gladly chat with you about anything related to this topic.
Yeah.
And just to remind everyone as well that you can purchase your own copy of the book and DVD at impossiblevisits.com.
Yeah.
Yes, that's important too.
Thank you for that shameless plug.
Well, the thing of it is, and see, y'all don't know Chris like I do, but I know all of any seeds that he makes is going right back into research. So it's not he's trying to a new boat or new car or something. I mean, he's that dedicated that he will kind of replow whatever funds right back into research, and hopefully he'll be able to put together the sequel.
I want to do that.
That's what we're all hoping for.
I need a thermal unit. Anybody out there who wants to sell me a used thermal imager, write me.
How much are used thermals going for these days?
$3,500, something like that.
Wow.
Right?
Oh,
Well,
man,
the new ones are
a lot of books.
the new ones are $8,000 or $9,000
or more.
Yep.
Oh.
Or more. Pat knows that very well.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I shopped online for 6 months till I finally was able to find one in my price range and bought it.
Well, he needs a good sponsor. You know, I got me a new good sponsor, and I'm getting all new equipment, and I'm not ashamed to say who it is. It's Mr. Pat Rance. Thank you, Pat.
Well,
and
sure,
I
anytime.
my old sponsor, and I got me a new sponsor, and
Well, now Pat's going to have to change his email address. Funny.
I'll tell you what.
Funny, he didn't
I'll
offer
do
to
what I
get
can.
he didn't offer to set me up. I guess he shot his full funds with you. That's okay.
Yeah, I didn't get an offer of a thermal camera either, Chris.
No, I didn't either. I want to tell you, I'm not getting thermal.
Okay, you're at a different level. Okay, good.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm one.
I've helped other researchers out in the past, and there's a few that I've made connection with and felt real close with, and that I've sent a little equipment here and there. And I think was it Texas Family No. 2? I believe I sent a piece of equipment over there at one time.
Oh, she appreciated that very much, and she got some good stuff out of that.
I'm glad.
She did.
Yeah.
She's a real nice lady.
Yes, she is.
Well, we appreciate you, Pat. We do appreciate you.
Anybody want to call and see if they can get online for Pat's gift?
I don't. I'm already working 2 jobs. If you want me to work 3, I won't have time to research.
3 is only 33% harder.
Yeah, that's true.
I got to give Pat a plug here now. Pat has some of the best research equipment I've ever seen, and I don't think anybody would have anything that he doesn't have. He's got thermal cameras. He's got a fantastic trailer that he pulls behind his truck that has everything in there. He's even has a periscope on top.
Uh-huh.
And he's got a heater in there. And he's got a place to lay down. I mean, it's really fixed up nice.
It's been nicknamed the Booger Buggy.
Mm-hmm.
I call it the tin can.
Yeah, that works.
I like to froze to death in that thing in December.
Well, he didn't
6 of us in there. And we were kind of close together, but it was fairly comfortable, wasn't it? It wasn't too bad.
Yes, it was. It was comfortable. We had plenty of room. There would have been room for more in there, really.
Yeah.
So call up and get
your...
But we sort of got skunked that night.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. Laurie got some pretty good little clips out of the audio that she recorded that night.
She did, but all we got was a skunk on thermal.
Yeah, wasn't that cool watching that skunk run down the road like he owned it?
Yes, it was. He was so proud.
It's silly when you're that excited over a skunk. We finally saw something on thermal. We're like all gathered around watching that skunk.
That thing that was across the road over there, I never have figured out what that was. Have you, Pat?
Oh, what's that?
You know that thing that I kept watching over there up on that hill across the road? Looked like it was flying.
I think it was that skunk. I think it was that skunk going up and down that hillside chasing insects or mice or something.
Well,
and then he finally came down and ran down the road. That's what I think, but I'm not really sure.
That was wild because, you know, you'd see it for a while and then it'd just go away.
Yeah.
And then it looked like it would just reappear.
I think what we were
really
It
amazing.
was a small animal, though. It was a small animal, for sure.
I think what it was...
That machine did a fantastic job to pick up an animal that small moving that fast.
Well, I think what it was, Brian, is the skunk. I really feel like it was that skunk, and it was behind the foliage at a lot of times. When it disappeared, it was behind leaves or branches and things. And then it would move and then pop up somewhere else.
Well, that camera of yours is fantastic. I know that.
Like my toys.
Yes, yes.
We like your toys, too. But I really enjoyed getting to see thermal in action. The only other place I'd ever seen thermal was on Ghost Hunters. I enjoyed actually getting to see it. You know.
Now you can see Chris's thermal, too, on the DVD with the booger belly crawling up around the campfire. That was
Oh, Chris needs
I think the first time that I ever remember seeing anything thermal was probably on one of these police car chase shows where they had a FLIR camera mounted on the nose of a helicopter. And of course, they use those all the time. But, you know, back several years back, I guess them and the military were the only ones that thermal imaging cameras were available to.
Yeah, and I always thought it was so cool and super modern. I never thought I'd get to use one of those.
Well, we're doing our best to try to get some books and DVDs sold, so maybe you can get some.
Get me back one. Yeah, I borrowed one, but the person who lent it to me had to have it back to go on expeditions himself. So I'm back to square one.
I say, hopefully, like everything else, you know, as the new wears off of this and more people start buying them, the price is going to go down.
Oh, they will. It will. Yep.
I remember my first digital camera was $400, and now you can buy them for $89. So I can hear old Crow's booger bait right there in the background.
I can too.
I'm trying to keep it quiet.
Okay.
Maybe Sprout wants to tell us about his latest sighting.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure when he's had his last one.
Is it quieted down lately because of winter time?
Yeah, I think so. And, well, it gets, I don't know, the dynamics when people come around that are strangers or trespassers, it just kind of messes everything up and you go back to square one, start all over.
Things were pretty
That
active.
has to be frustrating.
About a year ago, March and April was when things went crazy at Timex's house, right? East Texas number 2 in my book.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was the springtime. Maybe that'll happen again. You were the one who talked her through that.
Well, myself and quite a few others.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a little nerve-wracking at times, but she made it through.
It was her maiden voyage.
Yeah, and she got broke in right.
Yeah.
But it just it goes in spurts, more or less.
Is that because they're going on walkabouts, or just because they're hibernating, semi-hibernating?
I think it's walkabouts, like I said. I think I've had some trespassers again recently. I found a pile of cigarette butts under some trees in my front field. Do you remember the cedars?
Yeah.
And they were fresh, so I figure somebody's been poking around again. But when something like that happens, it gets quiet for a long time.
Well, do we have any chat room questions or?
Yes, we've got one here that says, Chris, did you hear any sounds of Bigfoot trying to communicate with each other? And was there any markers out in the woods?
Definitely no on the first question. And the markers, I have a lot of potential stick and tree structures that I videoed and put on the DVD. So you can be the judge of whether you think those are legitimately crafted by an intelligent being with hands or the result of random deadfall. But to me, I think I'm getting better at distinguishing the two. So you see what you think. There's if you look through, if you go to YouTube channel Impossible Visits, you can go through the Vermont Ravine Project, which has several different short parts to it, and
I think there's 8.
7 of them, and I think it's number what is it that has most of the tree information, the stick structure information? I think it's number 2 or 3.
I think it's on the second
I think
one.
3.
Maybe. I think it is 3. So you can take a look at that, and if you're trying to decide whether to bite the bullet and buy the DVD or the book, you can see whether you think that looks good.
Mm-hmm.
And if it looks good on YouTube, it'll look better on the DVD. And
it does.
But I mean, Laurie has a lot to say on the formations. But I think they're markers, they're territorial markers and aesthetic expressions at the same time.
I think so too. And I've noticed consistency in markers in certain areas.
Say more about that.
Yeah. Well, in my old research area, I kept finding they look like giant A's or like an artist's easel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started noticing up in Harrison County, I was finding them and they were straight up. But as the further on you moved south, the more slanted they became. And I don't know what it means, whether it's like a family's signature or
like a family, like a coat of arms or an insignia.
Yeah, like a family crest of some kind. That's what I was thinking it was.
Yeah, why not?
Because it's completely unnatural.
Well,
unnatural.
That possibility sounds as good as any, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sure
and
does.
then I'd also find where bows and teepee formations were blended together or separate. Huge formations. We're talking about could stand underneath them. And, of course, we're talking about an incredibly large creature anyway. I would find these down in very active areas and would notice more X markers towards rivers and roads, kind of like a territorial boundary. And I would never find them in the middle. Also, I found that in very active areas, also, sometimes you would find no sign at all. It'd just be like towards the edges of a territory.
One friend of mine, Michael Green, who's a researcher in North Carolina, has an idea that they may put these close to roads and human trails to let the young ones know if they're going on their own that they should be careful here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of like an out of bounds marker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, how is old Mike doing? I haven't talked to him for the longest time.
He's doing fine. He's thick into his own research in North Carolina. He got some thermal the other night that he himself admits is just a blob squash, but it's definitely there one minute and gone the next, and it's a heat emitting blob. But he's continuing to work on it, and he's gonna get some footage maybe before Pat or I do.
Well, I hope not. I wish I
He's all geared up. He's got the equipment. So
he's a great guy. If anybody knows Mike, I met him and talked to him in the past, and he's just a great guy.
There's lots of good ones among us in the research world. And
there are.
Then there's some lunatics.
We're going to do our best to try to get as many on this show as we possibly can.
There you go.
Well, Mike might be a good one if he's willing.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
And Chris, we definitely want to get you back on again because I know there's no way that we could get all the information that you have in your head on a 2-hour show.
Chris, I've got a question for you if there aren't
I
any
feel like
other.
I've told you everything I know.
No.
Tapped out.
I want you to share some of this with the others. Why don't you, would you explain to us and describe in great detail about your experience in, I believe it was Arizona, with the caves that you all found?
Well, this was a BFRO expedition, and it was kind of a secret, except now I put it on the DVD, so that's all blown.
I hope you're not in trouble for that.
Oh, I can handle it.
Okay.
4 of us were exploring on the Arizona expedition 2007, March of 2007, so exactly 2 years ago, exploring this box canyon. And it was about a mile from where the previous year some amazing footprint casts were made because a tourist had seen one of our hairy friends walking up a hill, and the local Apache Rangers came and saw the footprints and had enough wherewithal to make casts of them, and these were beautiful. And less than a mile from there was this box canyon, and we were just looking around, poking around. It was really steep and lots of rock slides. It was hard to walk, and we found this cave opening, and we climbed up to it arduously, and we were all out of breath, and then we were thrilled because it was this very it was about 35 feet deep, and it was a narrow opening at the start of it. It was like a bottleneck, and then you go through about 15 feet in the back of this cave. It opened up into a round room, and 2 things were especially noteworthy about this cave, and this is documented on the DVD too, with Impossible Visits, the book. That's impossiblevisits.com. And the first thing was that the floor of the cave was covered uniformly with 11 inches deep organic matter, just grass and old plants that had turned into dust. It was just this thick padding of organic material. And the second
What could
thing,
have done that?
I don't know, unless it was something with hands that had transported this stuff in there to make a bedding material. The second thing was that the whole first 15 feet was it was this kind of entrance corridor where these big rocks had been moved to either side, the left and the right side, so that there was just a smooth floor going in.
At the center.
Down the center. That's right. And it just went in there, and there was no human sign whatsoever. No papers, no cigarette butts, no fire ring, no soot on the ceiling, no soda cans or anything. It was just.
Was there any odor when you went in there?
No, there wasn't. So they must have not been there for a while. But the thing is that from the front of this cave, it was a perfect overlook promontory down to this confluence of 2 rivers where the elk come to drink and cross, and it would have been just a strategically ideal spot for hunting. So that's what we found, and I was lucky enough to be in the small party that first found it, and then we told the other expedition members to come and look, and we got lots of good footage of it. But that was one of the exciting things on the expeditions. But I'll tell you, on all the expeditions I went on, nothing was remotely as exciting as the habituation experiences that I've done. So I have come to prefer the gradual, careful process of habituation over these sorts of expeditions that just go to a likely area and fan out and have walkie-talkies, and it just seems more likely to have success when it's quiet and
it's less technical and scientific.
Well, that's true, but there are some advantages to that, and I'll attest to this myself. My very first experience Bigfooting, so to speak, was one of those BFRO expeditions, and I got to meet some real nice people and learn some things firsthand, and it kind of set everything in motion for me. It was kind of like a training ground of crash course.
Definitely.
In the whole
Same with me. Yeah.
So it's real good for that, I've been involved with several other outings where we've had 25 or 30 people, and just basically try to show everybody the ropes. A lot of newcomers, so to speak, and I think it's beneficial to spread the wealth around a little bit and get some other people up and running if you can.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because what I was saying was too one-sided. It definitely is true that there's a place for that too, and you can learn a lot from others and start to make alliances with like-minded people. And
well, I would have never met Chris if it wasn't for that, and I would have probably never met Tennessee Cherokee face to face if it wasn't that, first time.
That's
we corresponded prior to that, but we did get to finally meet in person, and same with Laurie.
We have Bill Green on the phone, and he has been waiting patiently to talk to Chris. So let's bring Bill Green on. Bill, we're sorry you had to wait. Are you there?
Oh, it's okay. How you doing?
Hey, Bill.
Doing fine, Bill.
Hi, Bill.
All great. It's rainy and kind of windy in Connecticut and stuff. It's quiet as far as big activities around now. I guess the black bears are coming around Connecticut now, and so I wanted to ask you a question. If someone was going to put your book or DVD, would you be able to send them a copy of it?
I can't make out your question because you're breaking up.
Yes, you are.
You're really breaking up bad, Bill.
Can he type it in the chat room?
Little faster, Bill.
Okay. If someone couldn't afford your DVD or book, could you? Would it be possible if you could send a copy of your DVD or book for free?
Did you hear that, Chris?
Yes. That time it came through.
Okay.
Well, I don't want to make a policy of it, but I suppose we could talk in person. Why don't you just write me at impossiblevisits@aol.com.
Okay, I'll put my email in the chat room for you to email me, and we could talk tonight about that.
Well, I don't know if Chris has the chat in front of him. Can you write this down? impossiblevisits@aol.com.
Yeah. It would be much easier, Bill, for you to write him.
Yeah, but just because I'm one of those dinosaurs that still has dial-up, so I'm not online right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Put his email in the chat room so I can write it down.
But I know for a fact that Chris is online a lot because he's hard to reach when I call his home number.
That's right. This is the
when
longest
it goes to
phone.
When it goes to voicemail, he's probably online somewhere.
That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
But,
Bill, I'll tell you what we'll do. If you'll put your email in the chat room, we'll snag it and we'll send you Chris's email address. How about that?
Okay.
All right.
Now, continue listening to the rest of this awesome show tonight, and Chris doing good.
Okay. Okay, well, we're
Okay.
we're going to go ahead and let you go now because your phone is breaking up, and it is so hard to understand and hear what you're saying. And
I'm sorry, it's probably a Blog Talk thing or something. But, all right, great show.
Okay. Well,
All right, thank you, Bill.
Okay. We're winding down. We're getting in the last 10 minutes. Does anybody have any closing thoughts they want to touch on before we come down to the end of the show?
Well, I'd kind of like to say something.
Please.
If anybody wants to contact Chris, I know from firsthand experience that he will only talk about publicly what you tell him is okay. If you ask him to keep it in confidence, he does.
Thank you, Old Crow. That's true. That's one of my good traits. I have some bad traits, but that one of them. But I'm trustworthy when it comes to private information.
Well, one of the things that impressed me was my tapes that I sent you was returned post haste, and I sent him the first copy. I had no other copies, and sent him some tapes to go through and look at. And unlike other people, he returned them, which I thought was so cool.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I do too.
But I do want to let everybody know that to all of the different habituators, and there's a bunch of them, they all trust Chris. And not too many people have that seal of approval.
Well, thank you, Old Crow. Thank you, and I'm glad I've never slipped and used your name on the show. I'm very proud of myself.
Yeah.
Old Crow, that's your name. And if there's even one person out there who's never been affiliated with a group or anything, and you're just out there in the boonies someplace, and you're wondering what to do with the information that you have, your information could mean the difference between being able to protect this species and not. So, because every stone in the edifice that we can build of true knowledge about the nature of this species is one more in a barrier between their being safe and their extinction. Because once the general public becomes aware that they are really, really out there, there may be an open season on them. And even though they are these creatures are better than any other creature on the planet at evading capture and harm.
Excellent.
If there's an all-out concerted effort on the part of human beings on this continent to go after them, they may not be able to survive. We need
so true.
We need all the legitimate, valid information we can to educate the populace of our country. Once it becomes, once the cat is out of the bag.
I dread that day. And I hope that...
that day is long, long ways away from now.
It might be 25 years, and it might be Thursday morning.
And I know one thing, the habituators are ahead of the crowd, so to speak. They've learned so much and experienced so much, and they're, for the most part, they're very secretive and clannish too, because they understand the importance of, and they also understand how quickly you can be burned by people that portray themselves as trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So it's
Robert Morgan himself talks about an experience he had.
Yeah.
It was the same thing happened to him.
Well, as you say, when the cat is out of the bag, I just pray that public perception does not lend to everyone treating these creatures like the boogeyman and everything else that man has a hand in. I just hope that there's not organized hunts to go after these animals.
Well, one thing is beyond doubt is that the media will try to generate ratings by portraying this race as the boogeyman.
Yes.
They will try to scare the general public because that will guarantee money, profits, and ratings. Mm-hmm. And we have to be a bulwark against that.
I mean, right now the media makes fun of it.
Right.
Well said.
A huge joke out of it.
But once it's no longer seen to be a joke, they're going to go the other way, which is, okay, it's real, but this is a monster, and we have to join forces against it. And you can picture the last scene in Frankenstein where everybody's running with those torches. It's going to be kind of analogous to that. And so
let's hope it never comes to that.
Me too. We're trying to build a wall between that and, a wall to protect these primates from that. And when I say primates, I'm not trying to talk down to them. We're primates too. We're all part of the same family.
Yes. I don't take offense in that.
We're animals. We're animals too.
Yes, and we're so thankful you came onto the show, and we really do want to have you back. I've really enjoyed this show. I don't know about anybody else here, but I've learned so much.
I have too, and I understand now, Chris, and you have such a calm, soothing spirit about you.
He really does.
And I know if you continue to go out to the woods, that you're going to have fantastic results, because that's what everybody, I think, picks up when they talk to you and listen to your voice. And I know that Bigfoot will definitely not feel like they're endangered being near you, and I think that you'll have good results.
Well, that's very, very nice of you to say. I think we all have that same spirit, and you know, I'm just part of the whole gang that is able to go out there and to project benign friendliness, and that's what we're all trying to do.
Well, we appreciate what you're doing.
Well, good. I appreciate what you're doing, and let's all keep working together. And pardon me, but can you tell the folks out there that are listening? Do you have a timeline both of the last ones who are listening?
Can you sort of give them a timeline, or do you know when your next book will come out?
Oh no, I don't.
No.
I mean, I in the beginning of this current book, I have a sort of a statement where I say why I'm putting this book out, and I make an invitation for people to get in touch with me with their own stories. And so it depends on who gets in touch with me, how many, and whether
the amount of data that you get.
Yeah, the amount of data that I get, both from people generously contributing their information and their knowledge and their wisdom to the next book, and also my own researches and what I am able to discover through these researches. That will all go into book number 2. And so it may be 2 years, it may be 3 years, it may be you just have to wait till I have enough information, until I have enough good new material.
Well, Chris, I think I can help you out there, because I know of several other people who you have not met or talked to before.
Ah. Okay, so the next book will be 2 months from now.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will make it a point to contact each of them this week and tell them about you and have them download this show off the archives.
All righty.
Have them order your book and DVD and see for themselves, and I'll see if I can introduce you, and then you're, like before, you're on your own. All I'll do is introduce you, and I think you've got a proven track record now, so you're not the great unknown. I think you've proven yourself.
Yeah, I was hoping that this would open the door to further people feeling comfortable to share their information. And Pat, I would have been able to do very little of this without your help, so I want to publicly thank you.
All I did was introduce you. All I did was introduce you. The rest was all yours.
Yeah, you did more than introduce me, because you vouched for me.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming, and we are down to the last few minutes, the last 90 seconds. So
we have time for one more phone call. Come on, somebody.
No.
Please.
Have a nice week. Bye-bye.
Bye.